Turkey anti-refugee issue has not been on the Turkish political agenda until the last decade, actually, because, I mean, this doesn't mean that far right wasn't strong. It has always been strong since, I may say, even the 1930s. There has been an almost fascistic far right element, very strong element in Turkish politics, but its target has been ethnic politics against the Kurds. And in 2011, when the first Syrian refugees came, it wasn't such an unexpected development, because as a country in between Asia and Europe, Turkey has hosted different refugee groups, the Iraqis, Afghans, but at the time, Turkey was mostly seen as a transit country, and the number of the refugees were not high. And the previous refugee experience of Turkey, the Turkish people coming from Bulgaria or Greece in the early years of the Republic, and then in 1980s, wasn't a problem because it was considered as the ethnic Turkish population returning back to the home country. In 2011, we had a unique situation because I mean, first of all, Turkey's involvement in the Syrian war with its aggressive foreign policy was considered as the secular opposition, as a dirty politics, trying to change the political landscape in Turkey in favor of the Islamist cleavage. However, the government at the time defended that this is a humanitarian action. It has no political agenda, a hidden political agenda, and it's just only for 2 months. And it is our responsibility as Muslim people to extend our hand of help to our brothers in religion, and it will be for a very short while. So the borders are opened, something that we don't see in the European context. The borders are open, and the government, although it's an Islamist government, which at the time had already started to manifest far-right nationalist tendencies, had a very pro-refugee policy. But as the stay of the Syrians extended, and the number of the Syrian refugees in Turkey, Syrian migrants in Turkey increased, everything went out of control. Normally, under other circumstances, we would have expected the secular opposition, including the mainstream center-left party, Republican People's Party, to have a more positive approach to the refugees, try to understand the difficulties that they are going through. But as they are seen as the new paramilitary forces of the Islamist government, the secular opposition did not welcome and claimed that Turkey is harboring not refugees, but Islamist jihadist fighters that would serve the government in case the government requires a paramilitary force over whose actions it can anytime deny responsibility or any connection. The government maintained its official discourse about the refugee issue, and it also served very well for the government party in the domestic politics, because they presented this as the strength of the Turkish government, doing something that the European countries could not do, welcoming so many refugees, and claimed that Europe acts in a hypocritical way. They harbor Kurdish terrorists, but not harbor the victims of the civil war in Syria. So that official discourse continued. But in a very short while, in just a few years, the clash between the local population and the Syrian migrants escalated. So the government remained in a difficult position. On the one hand, the official discourse could not be changed. The government tried to make readmission deals with the European countries in European Union in exchange for a huge amount of money, but they wanted to get the money in cash. So the amount expected didn't arrive as a result. And the fact that the Syrian migrants, the places that the neighborhoods that they have been placed were low-income neighborhoods and mostly supporting the Islamist party. So it created a problem. This is one aspect of the situation, the context, the political context, the polarization between the AKP and the secular opposition and the Syrian migrants at the center of it. So it left the Syrian migrants without any supporters, not from the secular, not from the Islamist side, though the country, the government continued to maintain its official policy. On the other hand, we also see the media landscape, a highly polarized media landscape, and on the one hand, the government tried to monopolize all the major media outlets that, in a way that we can see in countries such as Hungary. They bought out media outlets or intimidated them by with criminal and financial threats. Legal and financial threats. And on the other hand, the remaining oppositional media, though decimated in number and started to rely more on citizen journalism, became increasingly anti-refugee. And the government also had a dual, in this situation with media polarization on the one hand, exacerbated economic conditions, and the continued polarization in the country, the government started to employ a dual media discourse towards the Syrian migrants. I mean, first of all, the status of refugee was never granted to the Syrians, despite all the big talks by the officials. And the official media continued to show the videos of helping the poor Syrian migrants, especially women and children, and which shows the grandeur of the Turkish government. But unofficially speaking, the government tried to find a way to absorb the social discontent, which started to also characterize its own electoral base. So in the form of the do-it-yourself videos, appearing as if it's just citizen journalism, several YouTube channels emerged, or online media outlets emerged in the form of street interviews and the like, and they tried to absorb the social discontent. And we chose two videos from the same content producers in the next slide. Okay, so I didn't choose another group because the other far-right group in Turkey is also the government's partner, MHP, National Action Party, the openly ultra-nationalist party. So MHP also refrains from an open criticism of the government's policy. So this leaves us either with the secular opposition's media, but I thought that it would be better to show it through the government's resources. So there were two events. One was an event when the government declared that those Syrians registered to other provinces in Turkey, but physically in Istanbul, should be expatriated to the registered provinces, which means that you should leave Turkey somehow, because when they go to, I mean, there's a reason why they are in Istanbul, not their registered province, because they cannot find a job. They cannot find neighborhoods that they can at least live at low profiles. So this was the first one. And the Ahsen TV, an Islamist origin do-it-yourself content producer, the anchor, let me say, made interviews with the Syrians about the decision of the expatriation of the Syrians to their registered provinces, but not out of Turkey. Interestingly, it's titled as "What Do the Syrians Think?" But they talk to very few Syrians. The only Syrians that they have talked are well-abled, young male Syrians. And they also, and the video was cut in a way, both to show that they are quite healthy young males who could have remained in their countries and fight against the regime if they have wanted. So they are not in such a difficult condition. But also the video was meshed in a way that only the declarations given by the Syrians criticizing the Syrians themselves were put in the video. Like one of them says that the Turkish government did everything a government can do. Our government even didn't help us in this way. I understand the decision because some Syrians are very lowly educated and they create problems. So they should really be sent to their registered provinces. And there are other interviews, which one of which you see here. They are also talking with the Turkish people, local people, about this decision. But the scenes are very carefully selected. I mean, at the traffic junctures, bus stations, the most crowded places in Istanbul, where people usually hurry to their work. So this one I chose because, I mean, it doesn't even have any relation to the Syrians issue. I mean, as you can see in the background, there is a black young man listening to music and smoking. Not even Syrian, I mean, as you can understand. Just to show that while people are running, you see the people trying to get out of the metro station. I mean, he is just standing there like that. Next slide, please. I also looked at the audience consumption about this decision. Most of the comments appear to have both the government's discourse. Like it is the duty given by God, Allah, to help your brothers in religion. And we do that. Everybody here does that, but they are ungrateful. They create problems. Next slide. This is a second video of another event. Again, citizen, so-called citizen journalism, but from a pro-Islamist media producer. So there was a decision of Turkey to open the borders with Greece so that they can go through the Evros borders to Greece, and then they can move towards Europe. The idea was that this would make the European Union pay the rest of the money they asked as part of the readmission agreement. So these people are taken with the buses and located and dropped at the border. And this guy is making interviews. But again, I mean, it's such a fictional one. The Syrians themselves say that it's our fault. I mean, we had to escape from Syria because we couldn't take arms against our cousins. Nobody can expect us to kill our own relatives, even if they are in the service of the regime. We barely saved our lives. The Turkish government gave anything, and repeatedly, not only the Turkish government, Recep Tayyip Erdogan gave everything we need. So a very personal reference. We don't know whether the question was, who did this? Or whether it was a leading question, but apparently the answers are compiled in a way that it's not only the Turkish state, it's the president himself. And the guy making the interviews, while asking annoying questions like, I mean, couldn't you have fought against your own regime? Our soldiers are dying there. And at the same time, he's also distributing small goods. Another symbol of how we keep helping the people despite they are grateful, ungrateful, good for nothing people. And some of the Syrians in the interview also say that, give statements like, yeah, you gave, but how much you gave? So to emphasize that ungratefulness. Next slide, please. Here, the word cloud is very clear in the comments. The words that you see here reflect the polarization. Us, you, there, Turkey, and soldier you see somewhere. So it pretty much summarizes what the people think about this. We were compassionate. We did everything we have to do according to our religion, but you are ungrateful and you are different. So even those who get the message of the government that we have to do this as good Muslims, they're not happy with the situation. They don't have any positive notion about or understanding or sympathy towards the Syrian migrants. Next, please. Or I think there's no next. Özge? I think this is the last one.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me check.
So what this Turkish case tells us, it actually shows us a different dynamic. I mean, similar discourses, similar anti-refugee discourses that you can see in Hungary, in Poland, in, I think, Germany, that they are criminals, they destroy our society, they are culturally alien, etc. Although they are Muslims from a neighboring country. The people that we personally invited didn't put any border control. So how anti-refugee attitude can be mainstreamed by a government which at first place welcomed those refugees for political gains at the domestic and international area, still doesn't refrain from mainstreaming the anti-refugee attitude. Thank you for listening to me.